Professor Valeri, and welcome to part 3 of the genre lecture in fiction. Pinocchio doesn't know what makes a good story, but we're going to look at some techniques that writers use in order to make their stories lively. First, we will have to look at images. We've talked about images before, but they're so important to fiction that it's worth reviewing what they are. Let's take, for instance, the picture of this little girl. When we look at this, we feel differently than if we were looking, say, at a house on a hill or a simple piece of furniture. We can describe what we see. It's a little girl and her dolls, and they're all facing the wall. But as we look at it, we can't help but think, what does it mean? What is the little girl thinking? What is she doing? Is this the way she feels about the world she lives in? The image here is communicating a lot more than just what we see. An image is much more than just the things it describes. An image is a description that makes us think beyond the things we see. How this is useful to a fiction writer is especially apparent when we will look at the next clip, something taken from the Game of Thrones. The characters here are talking to each other about their ambitions. As you will see, when Littlefinger gives his speech, the film director has decided to superimpose some really vivid images on top of that. And what these images do is convey a meaning that's much stronger than the words themselves. Let's take a look.
I did what I did for the good of the realm.
The realm? Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
But what do we have left once we abandon the lie? Chaos. A gaping pit waiting to swallow us all.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. Many who try to climb it fail, and never get to try again. The fall breaks them. Some are given a chance to climb, but they refuse. They cling to the realm, or the gods, or love. Illusions. Only the ladder is real. The climb is all there is.
So, when Littlefinger, for instance, talked about people falling from ambition, the image that the film director showed us was that of a girl tied up and speared to death with arrows. And then when he talked about people who fail ambition because of their dreams, we see Sansa crying as the ship is sailing away. And the director pays particular attention to the word illusion, and decides to show us nothing but a ship sailing away. Illusion is a ship that sails away. But how much more effective it is to see these people suffering and to know their individual stories than it is to simply hear Littlefinger describe them in the abstract. This is what images do. They give us something to hang on to. They give us a way to connect to our characters. Another way that fiction writers make their characters come alive is through a strong sense of voice. Voice is not just how the character or how the narrator speaks, but it's a narrative pattern that reveals much more than the words themselves. Here's an audio clip from one of my favorite olden movies, My Cousin Vinny. I'm letting you hear it because this is what you would hear in your head if you were to read the script out loud without images. You should be able to get a really strong sense of who these characters are simply by hearing them talking.
What's the matter with you?
I don't know.
You're acting like you're nervous or something.
Well, yeah, I am.
What are you nervous about? I'm the one that's under the gun here. Trial starts tomorrow.
You want to know what I'm nervous about? about? I'll tell you what I'm nervous about. I am in the dark here with all this legal crap. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is you're screwing up, and I can't help.
You left me a little camera, didn't you?
Oh, Vinny, I'm watching you go down in flames, and you're bringing me with you, and I can't do anything about it.
And?
Well, I hate to bring it up because I know you got enough pressure on you already. But we agreed to get married as soon as you won your first case. Meanwhile, 10 years later, my niece, the daughter of my sister, is getting married. My biological clock is ticking like this, and the way this case is going, I ain't never getting married.
Lisa, I don't need this. I swear to God, I do not need this right now, okay? I got a judge that's just aching to throw me in jail. An idiot who wants to fight me for $200. Slaughtered pigs. Giant loud whistles. I ain't slept in 5 days. I got no money. A dress code problem. And a little murder case, which in the balance holds the lives of 2 innocent kids. Not to mention your biological clock, my career, your life, our marriage, and let me see, what else can we pile on? Is there any more shit we could pile on to the top of the outcome of this case? Is it possible?
Maybe it was a bad time to bring it up.
When we listen to these two talking to each other, not only do we get a sense of the plot and of their situation, but we also get a sense of who they are. And not just because of their accent, but also because they reveal to us what matters to them in almost every sentence they speak. This leads us to the next thing that writers do, which is to create believable and compelling characters. We do this line by line, scene by scene, by knowing our characters well and by knowing how they would act in almost any situation. I'm going to show you now a clip from the movie Magnolia. We learn a lot about these characters not just by what they say to each other, but also by the things that they don't say, by their body language and their interaction, which is kinetic, constantly changing. Have a look.
Have a great lunch!
Genevieve from the show profile. She's here for the interview.
Hi, it's really nice
I admire your work.
Thank you. I have us set up in a
It's
suite
not very
upstairs.
safe for you here.
I finished one of these seminars, Guinevere. I swear to fucking God. I mean, I am Batman. I'm Superman. I'm like a fucking action hero the way I feel. I was like, I could walk out of this room right now, Guinevere. I could go down the hall, I walk down the street, and I could pick up any sweet little honey that I meet that has even 1 second to stop.
All it takes is 1 second.
Just 1 second, girl. 1 second. One glance, one hesitation, one subtle look my way for me to know. And then it is bing, bang, boom. Oh my God. Oh! I'm away on a tangent. I tell you.
Yourself, okay?
I tell you, I do. I get so fucking jazzed at these seminars. See, because I am what I believe. I do as I say. I live by these rules as religiously as I preach them. And that's why I am getting the nasty left, right, center, up, down, sideways. The battle of the bush is being fought and won by T. Mackey.
We're gonna start rolling now.
What? Well, I thought we were rolling. Come on, go, 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 Guinevere. I am firing pearls at you here. Listen, I want you to know that I am not succeeding in the bush because I'm Frank T.J. Mackey. You think about this. I mean, there are women who, want to destroy me.
No. I find that hard to believe.
Well, it makes it very difficult. Twice as hard for me. You know, I mean, there's some little hottie that I'm moving in on, knows me, knows my, my plans and my schemes. You know, she's gonna want to fuck with me. She's gonna go back, tell her friends, yada, yada, yada. You know, Frank T.J. Mackey, he ain't all that, He ain't all that, didn't get me. So me, I am, I'm just, I'm full afterburners, full throttle through hottie heaven.
Okay.
Just dodging left,
Okay, Frank, yes,
dodging
I
right,
understand.
just
I
dodging
do
left and right.
understand.
These bullets from these
This is gonna happen.
terrorists, babe. Beauties.
Calm down, take it easy, and be a good boy. Okay,
Whoa.
Mr. Mackey? Thank you. Now you sit back there. Put your microphone on for me, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can do this then, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let me start by asking you...
Just 1 second.
Mr. Button.
Thank you. What do you want to know?
What do we want to know? I think we learned quite a lot already. The next thing that makes fiction come alive is a story that has movement. What I mean by movement is a sense of wanting to know what comes next, of being intrigued by the events that are unfolding. Like the "Oh my God" cat. You want your readers to always be wanting to know, what if? What's coming up next? And to always be surprised. And that applies whether you're working on a story that's about a coming of age, or whether you're working on a gory paranormal thriller. We create movement in a story by focusing on character. Desire and conflict are two of the essential elements of a good story, and they should always play against one another. Whatever the character wants can't be easy to get. His motivation must have an equally strong power standing against it. We think about what may motivate a character's particular desire, and then we match it up with a daunting force that also dwells within the character. Love may be your character's motivation. So fear could be at the other end as a conflict. If it's personal ambition that motivates your character, perhaps there is an exposing expectation from a loved one, someone who doesn't want him to succeed for whatever reason. And if it's an inner need, then perhaps there is a personality flaw that's keeping him from attaining it. One playing against the other. In fiction, we do a lot of mirroring. Whatever is driving the character is also what stops him. Whatever external objective the character may have must be driven by an equally important internal ambition, and so on. Let's look at some specifics. We talk about character desire, but what's inside that desire is motivation. We could care less about why the chicken wanted to cross the road, but as in this little comic here, now let's see, if I cut across here, I can sneak back inside before the missus figures out I've been out all night with the boys again. So here we're giving a motivation, and whether you think it's funny or not, at least you have to admit, it makes the story of the chicken crossing a road a lot more interesting. Desire is external, whereas motivation is why it matters internally, psychologically, emotionally to the character. Let's look at some examples. These are some external, concrete, tangible desires that you can easily build a story around. Somebody wants to own a pet, or to date the cheerleader, or to pass the test. What motivation might they have? Perhaps someone needs a pet because they have to get over a big loss. They don't want to be so lonely anymore. They want to date the cheerleader because they have some low sense of self-esteem. And maybe they want to pass the test because they want to prove independence to mom and dad, or even better, to prove that they're not so dumb after all. Similarly, conflict also has a mirror pattern. You have an external obstacle and an internal conflict. Someone who has low self-esteem may really be kind of manifesting for himself a bully. It's as if the bully can sniff out the ones who really have inside of them some kind of fear of them. The bully doesn't go bother big football player or the really confident cool guy. He goes for the guy who's afraid of him. So let's look at other external versus internal examples. Let's say your character has an obstacle, and that's to pass a test. Well, why is it a real obstacle? Well, because he has test anxiety. What about, there's a problem with a rival. Why would that be a problem to this character? Why is it that they can't overcome this? Well, maybe it's a lack of trust in others that brought this rival about. Maybe the character has nightmares. Well, that's easy. There is unresolved trauma that's causing a problem. And a cliff would only be an obstacle to someone who has fear of heights. To a hiker, for example, it might just look like a fun challenge. Whatever is inside your character manifests on the outside. And you will notice that all the obstacles we have here, test, rival, nightmares, cliff, could either be very tangible or could be very abstract, like nightmares. Whenever a character overcomes any of these obstacles externally, that means he's gained an insight internally and he's grown. If you master mirroring in fiction, you will be able to construct a story that is based on causality. That is, one event in the story will lead to another event, and another, and another, everything escalating in a domino effect until we get to what writer Flannery O'Connor once termed an ending that is both surprising and inevitable. Here is an example from the movie The Campaign with Will Ferrell.
American ingenuity and hard work, unlike my friend here, Cam Brady, who believes that everyone should live in Rainbow Land.
Douglas, I'd like to say one thing. I'm an American too, and I have no idea what he's referring to as Rainbow Land, okay?
I'm referring to a 13-page doctrine written by Camden Brady called Rainbow Land.
That's something I wrote in the 2nd grade.
I think anybody that writes about the redistribution of wealth sounds like a communist to me. Am I right?
Hold on. It is the simple story of a teddy bear giving a pot of gold to a leprechaun, okay?
That's right. May I read from page 7? Please come with me to Rainbow Land, where unicorns are made of fudge and cotton candy, and everything is free.
It's a fictitious place. Rainbow Land, it's fiction.
I guess we're all idiots, according to Cam Brady.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Hey, I do not want to live in Rainbow Land, and you can't make me live in Rainbow Land. This is America.
You do not have to live in Rainbow Land.
You can go to Rainbow Land.
It does not exist. It's a fictitious place. I was 8 when I wrote it. It's from
right here in his Communist Manifesto.
I won't go to Rainbow Land. I said, sit down. It doesn't exist. Go back to where you're from, pig.
It's not a real place. How many times I gotta say it? It's not real. What is he pointing at? Don't worry, the way he's looking at you.
Is he pointing at me?
Sure the fuck is.
Cam, you're a communist.
You talking shit about me again?
Huh?
What is he pointing at? You pointing at me?
What?
Were you pointing at me? You talking to me?
Huh?
Fucking dickhead! What are you doing? What are you pointing? No. What did you say? No. Your nickname in school was Tickle Shits. I'm gonna see if it's true. Don't you shit your pants, Marty! Go for his hair! You do not touch my hair! Touch my hair! It's a $900 haircut! Have a time!
Don't talk about that, kid. Don't talk about that.
And there it goes. The domino effect has culminated. This kind of action is what will keep your readers hanging like the oh my god cat. So what does all these add up to? Well, here's a blueprint you can use for when you write a story that will help you keep track of all the things we've covered here. First of all, who's your character? Work on creating a convincing voice and actions and reactions and body language that are in tune with the character that you envision, that will make him or her very compelling. Then we work on desire. What does your character desire? And most importantly, why is it important to him or her? It's the motivation that will really make that desire important to the reader as well. Then the character needs to act. It's very important because nobody likes a victim and nobody likes to read about somebody who just sits in a tub thinking. When you have the action, it should start with something that causes it, the desire usually, but it should move in a domino effect, in kind of a casual order. And then, of course, there are conflicts, and those conflicts should mirror something that is within the character, some kind of psychological or emotional or internal block of some sort that will inevitably lead to an important insight. And if you don't want your character to change or to understand why he or her struggled, you can still have the reader have an insight. This is why it happened. And this is why we care about this character. And that's what makes a good story.